the difference between augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality? It is a range of experiences. On one hand, we have virtual reality, which is a total immersive experience where you put on a headset and you are disconnected from your environment. Everything you see and interact is a 3D generated object. And on the other hand, for augmented reality, you have a connection to your environment, like in HoloLens, and you have some extra information, maybe 3D or maybe audio information that's available to you, which is augmenting your reality. Also, we have mobile phone applications like Pokemon Go. You are looking through the glass of your phone and you're able to find 3D objects in the real world. And this whole range of experiences we call mixed reality. And short, it's called XR.
VR applications that don't suck. I think this is hopefully a very important question to you, because I've seen many applications that are with some tweaks they can be a lot better, and in this presentation I want to give you 4 tips on what you can do to improve the quality of your VR experience. So first of all, who am I and why am I even talking to you about this? My name is Dinesh and I've been teaching AR and VR development for the past 5-6 years now. And I've tried out dozens of VR applications, AR as well, from different companies, enterprise, but also individual people, a lot of my students also. We just recently had a game jam where I tried out 40 plus games as well. And there are a lot of things that are common within many applications that hopefully help you also to kind of step up the level on the quality of the experiences that you are going to build. And without further ado, let's start with the most important thing. So what do you think is the very most important thing that any VR application should have, or should not do wrong basically? Otherwise, let me give you a tip. You are gonna start to puke maybe. So obviously in this presentation I want to give you 4 tips to you, because I've seen many applications that are with some tweaks they can be a lot better, and in this presentation I want to give you 4 tips on what you can do to improve the quality of your VR experience. So first of all, who am I and why am I even talking to you about this? My name is Dinesh and I've been teaching AR and VR development for the past 5-6 years now. And I've tried out dozens of VR applications, AR as well, from different companies, enterprise, but also individual people, a lot of my students also. We just recently had a game jam where I tried out 40 plus games as well. And there are a lot of things that are common within many applications that hopefully help you also to kind of step up the level on the quality of the experiences that you are going to build. And without further ado, let's start with the most important thing. So what do you think is the very most important thing that any VR application should have, or should not do wrong basically? Otherwise, let me give you a tip. You are gonna start to puke maybe. So obviously it's gonna be frames per second. So we wanna have a stable application. That is so crucial and important. And I don't know why it's not so obvious, or why it's not so common practice basically. Maybe it's common sense, but it's definitely not common practice, because I've seen a lot of applications also on going on conferences and fairs where it was very laggy. So I had some huge environment and it was just like this, and any normal person would just throw up immediately. I'm kind of used to that stuff already. That's why I was like, yeah, thank you for your application. It's okay. Maybe you could improve the stability of it a little bit, but yeah. So the most important factor in any VR application is keeping a stable frames per second. And I want to give you some tips on how you can do it, not just saying, yeah, it's important and that's it really. So how can you do it? And you see already, okay, you want to have at least 60 FPS, ideally more than 80. So I want to talk about 3 main steps right now, because performance optimization is a huge topic and it can have its own presentation, maybe even its own conference for that sake. So let's focus on 3 important ones. First of all, draw calls. So draw calls basically, what is your graphic cards rendering to the computer? If you have a PC VR, then your PC is gonna do it. Otherwise, the graphics card on your Oculus Quest 2 or Pico Neo 3 or any other standalone headset will have to do it. But basically, how much rendering does the graphics card has to do? And here, let me just show you basically what you can do to improve it. Quick question, what do you think, which of these 2 is a low poly model and the high poly model? So low amount of polygons, so these triangles that you see in every app basically. And one of these is high, one is low. Which one will switch? I have no idea, and I think you don't know either. But really important step, and maybe the most crucial step that you can do, is keep the polys low. And I think this is what every developer is most likely going to tell you as well. You most often don't need like the 5 million vertice resolution on any small object. Basically, that's kind of like waste, and it just costs a lot of performance and makes your app run slow. Basically, you can break it down. There are a lot of tools for that as well. One example would be Pixie, so Pix and YZ, for example. And any good designer like 3D artist can also help you to break down the models to have fewer polygons. That also helps a lot already. The next step that you can do on keeping your performance high is make sure that you don't overdo it with textures. Like, I know you want to have a very beautiful and pretty application, but you don't need like a huge 4K or 16K texture for any screw you have inside of your 3D model or something like this. Like an easy rule of thumb is if you have a big surface like a floor or a skybox, for example, or the wall, then it's okay to have like even a 4K texture. But again, like everything is really highly dependent on your use case and on your end hardware. So if you have a super hardcore PC and you really need to show some surface, for example, maybe you are a manufacturer for tables and you really want to show the table texture, then of course like go all in on that kind of stuff. But you really want to weigh out which is how important is it to really show all the details of that, because the more details you have, the more it comes at the cost of performance. So generally, if you have huge surfaces that you see a lot, like a floor, a wall, or a skybox, for example, then it's okay to have a higher resolution. But like for small things like the back side of a monitor, I don't know, something like this, you really don't need such a super high resolution texture. Also, quick tip on here, same for the draw calls, work with LODs. If you're further away from that object, you see a low poly representation, and if you go close to it, it actually changes the model, so it becomes more high poly. So because if you are like 500 meters away from the object, you don't need to see any details, and that's basically working with LODs, level of detail. And the last thing I want to talk about regards performance optimization, because it is huge, it makes a huge difference, is lighting. And also same for the other topic, lighting can be its own presentation, its own college degree, because it's such a huge topic. Also very complicated if you go into all the depth about it. But basically what you want to do is bake your lights. So what does it mean? Basically, you have dynamic lights and you have bake lights. If we keep it very simple. Dynamic lights are, you have your scene, looks very beautiful, and you just take out a light and move it around. You see the shadows moving in real time. Everything is calculated on the spot, on the hardware, which is the default option. Looks very pretty, but it's very expensive in terms of performance. So most often you don't want to do it with a real-time lights. Sometimes you want to mix it up. Maybe your use case is very, very specific and you really need to show these real-time shadows. Then of course there's no other choice. But most often you can just bake your lights, which means that you set up all your lighting and then you set it to static. So you tell your game engine that you don't want to move these objects anymore. And then you press this big, huge bake light buttons and it generates a light map for you. So basically it tells your program the information on where you have shadows. And that means that these shadows are not being generated in real time anymore. They are being just used as a map, basically, as a texture. And that saves a huge amount of performance. Of course, you cannot do any fancy lighting shadow tricks or something like this. But again, like if it works for your use case and you don't really need that, then of course you should go with baked lightings. So what is the next one? Really important, it's polished interactions. So what does it mean? VR is not a 3D website, and I see it a lot where VR is being treated like a console game, or like even worse, like an iPhone or Android app. So very similar mechanics. I don't know, like a huge big screen very far away, and most likely you know that feeling when you have like this shaky laser pointer from your hands and you have to type in your email address in a form which is like 200 meters away, and the buttons are like so small that you cannot even type your name, and you need like half an hour to just put in your freaking email address. I know this. I had to do it sometimes and it really hurts. So these are kind of things that I want to talk about now. So generally you want to have a lot of interactable objects. What does it mean? So if you go into a VR scene and you have some stuff like a bottle or a phone or something like this, you generally want to tell the person that this is a real world. You want to mimic real world a lot, which is something I will come back later to as well. And ideally you have most of the objects are kind of interactive. You can take a bottle, you can throw it on the floor, it explodes or it breaks at least, and maybe there's some water spilled on the floor, something like this. Like the more realistic it feels, the better in general. Again, this of course also takes a lot of resources from your developers and designers, so you really have to see how much do you want to show it basically. But in general it really helps to deepen the level of immersion. The next thing that is really, really helpful, and something I just talked about previously, is having a good feeling of UI. You really don't want to have this shaky laser pointer on this small keyboard where you don't even can't even put your email address in. Generally it should also feel like real world, and you see most of these examples are from Half-Life Alyx because it's just such a great use case, or such a great game basically, where you can learn a lot from it. So here we see also maybe you can use your hands, maybe you can use a keyboard that is floating in front of you and you just type it like this, or you have a magnetic big and magnetic laser pointer, for example. That would also help a lot. So try to make it as easy as possible for your users to type their email address. Next thing I also talked about previously is you want to mimic reality a lot basically. So in this beautiful example, like the door doesn't open because there is a stick between the handles, so physically won't work. And this is something that I don't see many VR apps do, like kind of use reality and common sense. Maybe you want to open a door, you have to push the handle like this and then pull it, something, or some other things. And these small things, they really, really help to, again, deepen the immersion of your application, which is pretty much the end goal of most, if not all VR applications, that you want the person to completely forget about the real world and really want them to be inside of your experience. They really should be feeling like, wow, this is crazy. And that, of course, also helps in that. Coming to the next topic, you don't always want to create reality as close as possible. And I'm talking about uncanny valley. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you don't, but I will explain it right now. So on the y-axis you have the emotional reaction, so basically positive or negative. Do you like it? Is it cute? Is it something good emotions evoking or bad emotions evoking? And on the right side, on the x-axis, you have how much human is something basically. And now it's still very abstract, but let me just give you some examples. So here, for example, we have a robot, a KUKA arm, which is pretty unhuman, I would say. I would not mistake it for a human. And it also doesn't evoke any special emotions, at least in my case. If you have some bad or very good experiences, maybe you do, but generally it doesn't have much emotions. So now it's getting interesting. Now we have this example of Wall-E, which is kind of humanized robot. It has like eyes, it has arms, it even has legs and a body. It's kind of cute also, and we generally, most of us will think, cool, not too bad, a positive emotion. If you go more and more to the human side, what do we have then? Avatars, basically, like Super Mario, or it could be anyone else. I don't know who else could be a great example for that. If you have a video game, most of the times they use abstractions in avatars, which is also still like, we know it's supposed to be a human, but we would not mistake it for an actual human. Like, I mean, his head is bigger than my stomach, for example. Like, his head is huge. And I think really humans don't have such big heads, and his nose is also as big as my head. So we still understand that it's an abstraction of a human. Now it's getting very, scary maybe. Quick disclaimer, if you are a not so strong person, maybe you don't want to watch for this for the next slide for too long. But what happens if we are very close to humans, but still not really on the human scale? Well, this kind of looks like this. So, kind of invokes a creepy emotion, mostly because we really only see the imperfections of what is not human in these kind of creatures and things. So let me just skip it. And then next step is a real human. So I think over me right here. And I think there should hopefully not be a big issue right now. But generally you see with the uncanny valley, you want to be very careful to not be in this hole basically. So you either want to stick on the left side before the valley or on the right side, so super realistic basically. And quick tip, I would tell you to stick on the left side. So Ready Player Me is one great example of creating avatars. They help you to create these things for VR also. There are other tools as well, or you can build your own. But in general, you really don't want to be in this valley. But the problem is being on the hyper realistic side does cost a lot of resources. So that is something that you want to avoid basically. So abstract style is usually better than, and it's German, like it's a phrase, versucht und nicht gekonnt. It's like you tried, but it doesn't really work out. And people just see it. So that is, even if it's almost human, that is so infinitely much worse than a clear non-human basically. Realistic human avatars are extremely expensive. You need a lot of R&D, designers, you need realistic hair, skin, clothes, all of that stuff. And that is like one of the main issues. Also, the next topic, uncanny valley also applies to voice. So you want to be careful with like robotic voices. Maybe you can just hire someone who talks into a microphone, or you can just do it yourself. But generally, like in combination with an almost human and then a robot voice is the worst combination ever. And talking about voice, one thing that is really important is proper sound. And I don't know, maybe it can be obvious to you, maybe it's not, but also many projects I've been working with in the past, people and I mean, of course, managers who have to decide how much money goes into what parts basically, mostly ignored the part of good sound. And yeah, that's a shame basically. Like, I mean, what kind of game would it be if there are no proper sounds and no proper music, or even like a movie? That just doesn't work. And for VR, it's even more important because it adds so much to the immersion. So one thing that I would recommend you really focus on the sound part of your game. What does it mean? Spatial sounds. So if I take this bottle, I throw it on the left side, I hear it from here. If I have something above me, I hear it from above, and all of that stuff basically. And that is really important, and it's fortunately also easy to do in modern game engines. Also, atmospheric sounds and music adds a lot to your experience. You can buy these things also for not so much money nowadays. Ideally, of course, you have a dedicated sound designer who can do all of that stuff for you, but again, that will come at a cost. But at least go to some websites and check out, like, I don't know, free sounds or like licensed sounds that you can use, and these add a lot for not so much money and time. Last thing, sound effects, also basically to the realism part. If you open a door, you want to hear it. If you throw the bottle, you want to hear it. If you I don't know, have like metal clapping or metal, you want to hear it. These kind of things, they add a lot to the immersion, and they are not so much on effort side basically. So to sum up, to wrap up, what are the essential things? So everything breaks down if there's no proper performance. If the performance is less than 60 FPS, I would say you are in trouble, because everything else can be perfect, but if it's just laggy and not fluent, then it just breaks the immersion, it breaks the comfort, and people will not enjoy your experience. Next, you want to have interactions that are made for VR and not for mobile. Don't try to use any concepts you have seen in a website or in a PlayStation game or on a app or something like this into VR. VR is a complete new medium, and you want to have to treat it like one. Next one is avoid uncanny valleys. So basically decide either you want to have avatar representations or you want to have perfect humans, which is very unlikely. So ideally you just stick with the avatars. That help a lot already. And then the last part is really maybe like the icing also from these four. You want to have good sound. And good sound, again, it's an okayish effort. Like, even if you have like okay sound, it's a lot better than having no sound. That's what I want to talk about. Ideally, you have a proper sound designer for VR who knows the stuff, but again, that can be expensive. If you don't have these kind of things, then just try to do it yourself. I would say, for my personal experience, okay sound is better than no sound. And so the last thing I want to end it for you guys here is I want to end it with a quote. Sometimes what you don't do is just as important as what you do. And I really like it, because try to focus on the essential things of the application. Ideally, you have, instead of doing a 20-minute experience that has a lot of half-baked stuff, try to make a 5 to 10-minute experience that is really polished. Everything is interactive, you have nice sounds, you have a proper environment, all of that stuff. It's really thought through. Which is much better than having so many, like 5, 6, 7 different scenes, a huge experience, 20 minutes that people just won't enjoy. And that's it basically. If you have any questions, I don't know how it moves on now. Maybe there's a panel, maybe there will be comments, maybe you can just write me per email, whatever you like. Just ask me. Maybe we can connect on LinkedIn as well, Dinesh Puni, also on YouTube. And thank you for your attention, and I hope you learned something new. If not, then you're most likely on a good track already. Bye bye.
Hey, hi Dinesh.
Hello.
Yeah, so thank you so much for this wonderful session. It was really amazing. So let me quickly check on the comments section. So for any questions, so there is a question from a person like, where can I learn more about VR development?
Yeah, I mean, mostly you can learn a lot of stuff on YouTube already. I mean, like my YouTube channel, for example, it has like over 100 videos on AR, VR development that you can check out by just putting my name into YouTube. That works already. And I also have my own website, also just my name. And on Google, then you will find that where I have like high quality education, VR tutorials, and all of that stuff.
Okay, great. So there's one more question. The question is, do you prefer Unity or Unreal?
Yeah, that's a very classic question, I would say, that gets asked a lot. And I personally use Unity, but that is mostly also just because I really like C Sharp. Back when I started with Unity, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, I first of all was into Java and I knew it really well. And then the switch to Unity and C Sharp was much easier. But in general, both work fine. Like it's really personal preference nowadays if you want to use Unity or Unreal.
Okay, thank you. One more question. The question is, do you work alone? I mean, the UI, UX, the programming, the 3D models, or is done by you alone? Is the question.
Yeah, that's a also good question. I have a team also. I mean, that's my company, Immersive Insiders, and there we are like 4 people working on these, like 2 programmers, and then myself doing all the managing things. We have a UI designer, and generally we work together because yeah, you can just do a lot more rather than being alone, basically.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so there are no more questions as of now. So I have also checked on the Discord channel, so I do not see any other questions. So maybe one question from my side as well. So I see that you have also with the immersive insiders, the platform that you have, which is an online e-learning platform. How do what, first of all, what was your motivation behind putting up this platforms? That is the first question. And how do you foresee e-learning platforms, especially on immersive technologies, to grow in the future?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So, in general, like the way it started was I have a really, really high passion for learning. I love just learning new things, and also AR, VR just captivated me when I here tried it out for the first time. I was really like super blown away by this immersive, amazing technology. And yeah, then I started teaching at university, like not only VR but also general programming. And at some point, just came like natural to me because I really like learning, I really like teaching, I really like XR. And if you just put them all together, then you learn and teach for XR. And also enjoyed making YouTube videos, so it kind of comes together. And by having my platform, it really helps to be independent of third-party platforms like YouTube or other social media tools. And you can really build your own kind of thing and have your own community, all of that stuff. And your second question was how I see e-learning platforms for immersive technologies in the future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this will just grow tremendously over time because the market for AR VR is just exploding right now. Like, I mean, it's growing a lot, really. And the demand for developers and creators and UI UX designers and product owners, all of these roles will be very, very, very high. So I think that naturally there will be also a lot of companies and educational institutions teaching these kind of things. And I'm actually also working with universities together that use my content on their platforms. So I'm happy if it grows because that also makes immersive insiders grow.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much once again. So there are no questions I see on the Discord channel as well as on the YouTube channel. So once again, I would like to thank you for your wonderful session, and thank you for so much for your time as well. And hope to see you soon again. So ciao.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. All right. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.